You're worthy. You just don't agree with it yet. But we're telling you you are. And after a while, you start going, yeah, you know what? I am. I've been lying to myself and saying that somehow uniquely God made 8 billion people and he looked through the crowds and went, oh, some about that Don Middleton just pisses me off, you know? I'm going to make him unworthy of respect and love. And, but that's just the stupid lie we love to tell ourselves that we're somehow uniquely unworthy of love and respect and especially from ourselves. So the world is more than willing to agree with you. And if you tell the world, I'm pretty much a piece of crap, they're going to go, yeah, yeah, you are. And if you tell the world I'm, a child of God, totally worthy of love and respect, they're going to go, yeah, you are.
Right.
That's great. The world wants to agree with you.
Hi, this is Tim Westbrook. Welcome to I Love Being Sober. We talk about life and recovery, mental health, biohacking, alternative therapies, and everything related to living a kick-ass sober life. So let's dig in. Welcome everyone to a special live recording of I Love Being Sober right here at Camelback Recovery. Today, we're honored to have Dr. Don Middleton with us. Dr. Don Middleton is board certified in family medicine and practiced for more than 30 years. He now works in addiction medicine at the international renowned Meadows Behavioral Health in Wickenburg and serves as the medical director for Vital for Men here in Arizona. He's also served as an assistant professor at Midwestern University, sits on the Arizona Board of Medical Trustees, and serves on the board of Crossroads Rehabilitation of Arizona. Last year, he was named Arizona Physician of the Year at the State Medical Convention. He's authored 5 books, including The Dunamis Effect, When Your Higher Power is Jesus, a Christian 12-step recovery book and workbook. He also leads the nonprofit organization behind that work, the Dunamis Initiative. Dr. Don, welcome to Camelback Recovery. Welcome to the show. So glad to have you here.
Thank you. It's always strange to hear a introduction like that to my ears because I go to a lot of other meetings where I have to introduce myself, and I usually say, "Hi, I'm Don, and I'm an alcoholic." So, yeah, some of my peeps out there. um, yeah, at 11 years ago, my behavior had gotten to a place where my beautiful bride said, "Something's got to change, or something's got to change," and my illusion of being manageable was ripped open, and I
Right.
had to turn myself in to the State Board of Medical Examiners as an impaired physician.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd like to pretend that was real courageous, but it was pretty much the last house on the block.
Okay.
I had quit and relapsed just 100 times, but I knew that they would definitely put accountability teeth into my program, and they did. It was a 5-year monitoring thing. Wake up every day, pee in a cup if they say yes, today's your day, and turn in logs for AA meetings and things like that. So it was a lot of stuff I was resistant against, but it turned out to be really great for me. Kind of like when you bowl with little kids that have like the bumpers up.
Yeah.
That first year you kind of do this, but you still knock over some pins, and then pretty soon you're just getting to where you just go right down the middle, and you don't care that the bumpers are there anymore. So monitoring isn't such a bad thing. It just, seems very intrusive at first until it just becomes part of the flow of your life.
Right.
Yeah.
And so was alcohol your drug of choice?
Yeah, that was my thing. And food too. Sugar for me is kind of like alcohol. It's like, I'm fine with none, but if I have a little bit, I don't know how much I'm going to have,
Right.
And so I'm good with no Oreos, but I don't understand people that can eat one.
Right.
How do you do that? This is like when I sit and watch someone like leave a half a margarita at their dinner. I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah. Wounded soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah, my girlfriend bought Girl Scout cookies the other day, and like you, I had one, and then next thing you know, I'm back to the cupboard, and I'm like, couple more, couple
There's a
more.
reason why they come in sleeves. That's a serving size,
I
right?
know exactly. Now, any mental health?
Other than just depression from life and stuff like that. But as I've gotten the poison out of my system and learned a new life of, self-care and going to the gym and meditation and prayer and all those things, all the things you know you're supposed to do, but somehow you kind of push them to the back burner. But once I do them, my life's as good as I could possibly imagine now. So I've been blessed that I don't have ongoing, secondary diagnosis, but definitely when I was in the middle of my bottle, it was pretty depressing because
Hmm.
I was just by myself, alone,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
living that life.
Right. What does your morning routine look like?
For me, it has to be very regimented, or I won't get a start on the day right. So I try to wake up at the same time every day, hit the lights, get it real bright in my face, get hydrated right away, and then some coffee with the Lord. Spend some time in prayer and meditation. And it's not too cold. I'll get up and do just a little quick mile walk. But sometime 4 or 5 days a week, I ride my bike down to the gym and get a workout in. That's kind of like my morning. And depending on meetings I might have, or if
Hmm.
I have to go into work, I'm working part time now at the Meadows, so I go out about 7 days a month.
Yeah.
And then this other thing is 30 days a month.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
How important is it to take that time to yourself every morning?
It's everything. It's my medicine. It's my medicine. People used to say to me, you got a problem with alcohol, and I didn't really have the language to tell them back then. But now I would say alcohol is not my problem. Alcohol is my really crummy answer to my problem, right?
Hmm.
My problem is this thing, and medicine. My medicine is kind of alcohol. I'm not sure what this is, but I know if I pour vodka on it, it goes away for a few hours, right?
Right.
And so, good on me if I don't drink. I don't get a DUI or yell at the dog or whatever. But if I don't figure out what that is and figure out what this is and get a healthy toolbox for it, I'm gonna scratch for something else. It's food or gambling or porn or buying too much garbage off of Amazon. I mean, it won't go unscratched until you find out what's healthy for it. For me, prayer and meditation, self care, and serving others.
Right.
That's where my medicine is now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How important is it to be of service, in your
it's
opinion?
everything. My sponsees hate when they call me because they know if they're a little sideways, I'm gonna say, "Who'd you serve today?"
Hmm.
Who'd you help outside your own brain? Because that's the medicine. It's dangerous, lonely place up in here. So if you're feeling sideways, get out of there. you know? It's like if you're down a dark alley and it feels uncomfortable, you should leave. And I'm in this alley a lot sometimes, and I just get out and go, "Hey, who can I talk to? Who haven't I talked to on my contacts list for a while?" I'd call them up and encourage them and see how they're doing. Just something simple like that.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to think about somebody other than me. Yeah, I know. I remember when I was about 5 years sober, and I'm a guy I called my sponsor every single day, and I took all the suggestions, and I remember when I was about 5 years sober, I was calling my sponsor and he wasn't calling me back,
Yeah.
and I'm like, he's out serving all these newcomers,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what about me? And that was really when I realized that I needed to pick up sponsees.
Yeah.
Because if I'm sponsoring somebody, if I'm taking somebody through the steps, if I'm being of service, I'm not thinking about myself.
Yeah. And it's just the whole idea is like no fair hogging the blessings. This is a big blessing to be able to walk away from addiction. And it's not an automatic light switch. You don't just walk out of here and say, "Okay, now I can, run a rehab." But eventually you need to turn around and grab someone else who's in the dumpster fire and yank them out and say, "Hey, we got this," and be there with them because it's even if they relapse, it serves you as well too. It's good medicine.
When is it too soon, or when should somebody start being of service and helping another person?
They made us serve immediately.
Mhm.
Sponsoring someone, probably at least you got to go through all the 12 steps yourself.
Yeah.
And I think, you know what, most people are comfortable with, wait at least 9 or 12 months before you're sponsoring people. Get some wisdom behind you and get some distance so that you have some cred to the person that you're talking to.
Mhm.
It's not really cool if you relapse and then that just throws them into a, spiral too. So But I mean, I went to a not nice place. I went to Calvary down the street over here, and I thought, oh, it's a got a Christian thing, you know. But it was kind of dumpy. And the very first day they go, "You're mopping the floors," and I'm like, "Wait, I'm a 50-year-old doctor. What are you talking about?" And they're like, "No, you're mopping the floors 3 times a day after every meal." And I did that, you know, in 30 days, 90 times. I mopped the floors, and it was just about, you know, breaking down my ego and building humility. Humility is everything in approaching sobriety. The humility and honesty. If you can get those two things out of you, you're likely to see the pathway out. That's my opinion. Yeah.
How'd you find your way into addiction recovery or addiction treatment specifically?
Well, that was interesting because I spent about 20 something years being a family doctor up in Arrowhead area, and you know, just taking care of little kids, giving them their shots and doing physicals for people and all that cholesterol management and stuff. And after I got sober for a year or two, I was kind of just like, the hell was that all about? You know, what was the lesson there other than don't do that anymore? You know, was there something I'm supposed to have gathered from it? And I'm a big believer in talking to God, and I was just saying, you know, was there something more I'm supposed to know about? And honestly, within like 2 days, I got an email saying the Meadows is looking for a primary care doctor, and I was like, boom! I think that might be what it is. And I called, and they hired me immediately, and just changed gears and went out there, and I didn't know a lot about the medical side of addiction, but I started. They got a lot of really brainiac people out there, like, and I just sat in those meetings and listened to people, you know, like Pia Melody and Claudia Black and, you
Hmm.
know, Basil Bandokolk and those kind of guys, Peter
Right,
Levine. And, you know, it's like, wow, I shouldn't be in this room. But
right.
they taught me a lot, and I've really morphed into a different career completely that I'm so grateful for. It's such a blessing. Yeah.
When did you realize that this was your calling?
I mean, just almost immediately when I started walking out there, and I realized this is like one of the very few jobs where you can proudly say, yep, I'm in recovery and check that box, you
Hmm.
know? And so is almost everybody else working there, from the CEO down to the janitor, you know?
Hmm.
They know that if you haven't been there and done that, you can have sympathy for people. But if you've got that PhD from the School of Hard Knocks, you can have true empathy, which is what people want. And when I'm bringing a new person into the Meadows and interviewing them, and I can tell them, you know, I got my 10-year chip in my pocket, you can just see the muscles in their forehead relax, like, oh, finally, someone who gets it, you know? And it makes a big difference in trusting that person when they say, you need to do this. I know it's hard, but you need to do it. They can go, oh, well, he did it, and look at him. He's 10 years now, so that matters.
Right, right. Yeah, I was in a different business before starting Camelback Recovery, and it was just a business, and I wasn't in the business of helping people. And so once I got into treatment and I started Camelback Recovery, I just realized the fulfillment that came from helping other people. And not to mention the accountability that it provided, because like I have to walk the walk.
Yeah.
Like I'm in recovery, I got to walk the walk. I've got a whole group of people that are looking at me.
Yeah. You switch to where, like, your whole life is a 12 step now, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. It's a kind of a fascinating thing to do, and I don't know, I'm feel so blessed to be able to do it. Yeah.
What are you seeing right now in addiction medicine that concerns you the most?
2 things I think is the most, because I work at several houses out at the Meadows, including, the young adults, which is the Claudia Black Center. That's like 18 to 25-ish. And, uh, and the fact that, weed has gotten so powerful
Mm.
that I mean, we used to, in the '70s, smoke a whole bag of weed, and you barely got high, you know? And, now a couple of hits and you can be, like, on the moon, and if you have an underlying psychiatric problem, sometimes it can
Yeah.
really shove you over the edge of the cliff, and we get some people with really harsh psychotic breaks out there that need a lot of tender love and care. And then the other thing is that everything has fentanyl in it. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
We've had people. We had a guy run away, went out, scored some weed, died. And apparently they are taking like really crummy weed now, and instead of like going through the hassle of making good weed, they just like have a spray bottle with fentanyl and spray it on there so you get a little higher when you smoke it. And there's obviously no control over the dose, and this guy got a lethal dose of pot off the street, you know. And so people think that they're doing an oxy, and it's like, no, bro, you didn't get Percocet. You're pissing positive for fentanyl, you know? And it's a really rough detox. If those of you that have not been through it, I don't recommend it. It's an ugly detox, worse than heroin, I think.
Yeah. Just talking with an interventionist yesterday about a client that had cannabis-induced psychosis, and it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it can mess you up for years.
Yeah, yeah. I'm grateful. I've been sober for 15 years on March 8th, so coming up on 15 years, God willing.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I got sober before everything got so, I don't know, it's like the Wild West out there. People are spraying fentanyl on cannabis to make it more potent.
Yeah.
It's
That's a strange
I
thing,
just feel
though.
really lucky.
Yeah. And then there's those other things, like I'll be walking through the grocery store and going, hey, when did they start putting pomegranate juice in vodka? How come they waited till I was sober to do that?
Right, right.
Oh, wait, why am I thinking that? There you go again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the Dunamis Effect and faith-based recovery. What does Dunamis mean? Am I saying that correctly?
Actually, it's dunamis.
Dunamis. Okay.
Dunamis is a Greek word that means potential power. Think of like dynamite. It's the root word to like dynamite and dynamos and stuff like that. So it's used a lot in Greek to represent potential miraculous power and healing, and it's used a lot in the New Testament. Whenever Jesus heals somebody, like it's used a couple hundred times in the Bible. I'll tell you a funny story. My book originally was, and I come from a Christian background, and that's my higher power is Jesus. So my book originally was from this quote in Matthew where it's love God and love your neighbor, right? And I thought, oh, that's the way out. Is first three steps are learning to reconnect to God, and then there's that part about cleaning up the wreckage of your past. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, love God, love your neighbor. And so I thought I was being real clever and called it him and them. And that was good until like pronouns got to be an odd thing. And then my 20-year-old boy looks at it and goes, your book sounds like a dude in transition. And I'm like, oh my God, how did that happen all of a sudden? So we had to rebrand it. Yeah. So dunamis is a great word for it, and no one's using it for anything. So I can own that word, and it's been an interesting thing to be part of it. Because what I try to do is I'm cool with people having whatever faith walk they have, but I think the churches need to be way more involved in coming to the discussion on recovery than they are. They kind of like to just outsource it and go, go to NA or go to AA until you're clean, then you come back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not cool. I don't let them get away with saying that without getting in their face a little bit and saying, look, if you're saying that, you're telling them that Jesus isn't necessary and neither is their church community. And I don't think that's your messaging.
Right, right.
So you need to come to the table. And now to their side, they always say, we know this is complicated and there's biology and neurology and medicine involved. And it's big and we don't know how to get our arms wrapped around that. And it's like, yeah, but the model we use is biopsychosocial spiritual model, right? That's the model we use in medicine nowadays. And doctors got the bio down. They can detox you or give you sub or whatever works for your path. And then counselors are really great at the psycho, uncovering trauma or, helping you work your way through whatever difficulties emotionally or whatever we have. But the social spiritual, they don't have time for that stuff. And churches are perfectly positioned to do that. So I'm trying to just bring all three to the table and say, look, we need docs, we need counselors, we need rehabs, and we need, faith communities to wrap their arms around these people and say, we got you until you can learn to love yourself again, and that's kind of where I did not want to write a book. I am really not good at that. And I mean, I type with two fingers, so writing a whole book is a lot of work, okay? Writing 60,000 words is a lot when you're like this. And it's funny, but I mean, sometimes I'll get really flying and use my thumb on the space bar. But it makes me slow down and think about what I want to write. But when COVID came, I all the AA meetings in the valley just evaporated overnight. Like there was 1,600 meetings a week in the valley of just AA, and I mean 95% of them just disappeared. There's some Zooms and stuff like that, and some people, defiantly met out. Like we had one that met in a park, and everybody could say, "Yeah, we're spaced" and stuff. But it was right when people were losing their jobs and their kids were having to come home and stay there, and they couldn't go to the gym and they couldn't go to their churches. But Circle K and the dispensaries were open. It was like this relapse tsunami happening. And so I go to a big church called CCV, and I knew they didn't have a recovery program. So I kind of secret shopped them and said, "Hey, I got an alcohol problem. What do you got?" And I already had a 5-year chip in my pocket. And they're like, "Oh, well, we're kind of sending people to AA." And so I went into the head pastor and went, "Good job on the soccer league. You guys are crushing that." But that's not an answer right now. And they
Right.
went, "Well, it's big and we don't get it. Why don't you fix it?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I'm here to bitch about it. I'll put money in the plate and you guys fix it." And they just went, "No, it don't work that way. It's your vision, so now it's your mission." And it's turned into kind of like my off ramp towards retirement. I can find something of meaning and value to do that drags me out of bed every day.
Mm.
And you know what? Probably good for our brains if we're always trying to figure out new stuff and think new ways and challenge our brains. So it's probably helping me out more than I thought. I was just telling you, we're forced now in this world to do like social media stuff and things like that. And I know to a lot of you that just comes natural, but when you were born in the '60s, that does not come natural. I didn't even have a Facebook page. And this gal in one of our groups came up to me and she goes, "You need me." I was like, "What?" And she's like, "You need me. Uh I used to do social media for Sleep Number Bed, and I went to your website and it's a train wreck. So hire me." And I went, "Okay, I don't have much money." She goes, "I'll help you raise money. Let's work on this." And I go, "I don't even have a Facebook page." And she's like, "Okay, you do now." And and she's just like forced me into things that are very outside my
Yeah.
like YouTube videos. I'm like, God, like I didn't even want to admit to myself I was an alcoholic, but put a book on Amazon and a YouTube videos. Talk about blowing your anonymity
Yeah.
out of the water there. It's an interesting new life for me, and I'm not sure where it's going, but it's better than what I had planned. So
Right. Right. Our one of our core values here at Camelback Recovery is always learning and always growing. And times are changing. Times are going to continue changing. And to your point, we've got social media, we've got YouTube, we've got Instagram, we've got TikTok, we've got all these platforms. People are on them. And so it's nice to see how many more people are public about their substance use and about their addiction and about their mental health. Because like for me, it makes me feel more comfortable and I have a platform. And I think it's for other people to see like, okay, I'm not the only one. And because there was such a stigma, there's still a stigma, but the stigma it's getting better.
it's way less. Now I understand anonymity, especially when they first started, like AA back in the '30s. Their model was, "This is morality. You're bad. Stop being bad,"
Hmm.
and that just doesn't help anybody.
Right.
But we either got. It's time to just say like we either believe in this disease model or we don't. And if it's a disease, why are we hiding? We don't hide people that are diabetic or have lung cancer. We
Right.
treat them,
Right.
you know, and we support them and say, "Hey, let's have I don't see any fun runs for alcoholics, but we need to start doing stuff like that
Hmm.
and raising awareness and saying, look, we know this is hard. So's treating lung cancer, so's treating diabetes, but they might have come from bad decisions. You might have smoked too much, or you might have like overate and gained weight and got secondary diabetes. But okay, so stop doing that. Let's make your life better. Let's treat it, and let's get you out of this hole. And so we either believe in that or not. And anonymity allows people come to recovery a lot of times with a lot of shame and a lot of you know feeling down on themselves. So it allows a lot of people to slide into the seats. But after a while, we need to start saying, "Hey, right here, you got a problem? Let me know. I'll help you out."
Yeah, one of the most comforting things for me, especially when I first got sober, I went to 1 or 2 meetings a day for my first couple years. And what that meant is that I connected with a lot of people that were in the rooms, in the 12-step rooms. And so that meant that when I was outside of the 12-step rooms in the community, whether it's at a coffee shop, at a restaurant, at a baseball game, at a football game, like I always see people that are in recovery.
Yeah.
It's very comforting.
Oh yeah.
Because I can just, I can see someone and just kind of give each other the nod. It's like, okay, he's my people, he's my people. And it's just been very, very comforting for me to be that connected.
Yeah.
How does your book and workbook differ from traditional 12-step material?
I guess just a couple ways. First of all, I have nothing against AA and NA. AA, God used the good people in AA to save my life, and I'll never, ever, ever say anything bad about them. It's just, you know what? It started out as a Christian program using the New Testament to build that book. They used the First Corinthians love chapter and the Sermon on the Mount and the book of James. That was their first text. As a matter of fact, they almost called the group the James Group. But when their book came out, and they had trouble naming it because they wanted to call it The Way. But when they looked in the Library of Congress, there was already 12 books called The Way, and they didn't want to be the 13th way. They were really superstitious.
Right.
So they just kind of came up with as Alcoholics Anonymous, and then and that stuck as the name of the group. But that being said, is just over time, society has become much more, a lot of faith walks out there, and they're all acceptable. And sometimes if you say Jesus in a meeting, you kind of get the sideways eyes. And of churches I found weren't going to be cool with just any old higher power will do. So in my book, in the Dunamis Effect, we say Jesus is our higher power. And also, that book was written in like 1939. And so science has progressed a little bit since then. We actually know some things. Back then they called it an allergy and stuff like that. And they didn't really understand, medications that would be helpful. They didn't have antidepressants and they didn't have effective rehab. They would just put people in asylums for alcoholism and even just tie them down to the bed while they had seizures and stuff and then just release them. So it's come a long way, and so we pay homage to that and respect it, and just use modern language because you got a 18-year-old reading the AA book, and they're like, "What's an iron lung?" It's like, okay, we can use modern language and still say the same thing. So
Right.
that's where it came from.
So you embrace Christ as your higher power.
Correct.
What happens when someone truly embraces a higher power, whether it's Christ or just another higher power?
Well, a lot of people will say, I don't believe in God, and that's really not true. They don't believe in the God of the Bible, is what they're saying. Everybody's got a God, and often it's yourself, especially when we're in the middle of our addiction. So everybody's got a God, but when you turn your life over to a higher power, at least your life's not in the hands of a fool, meaning myself, anymore, because what I was doing was clearly not working. And if I hadn't have gotten sober when I did, I'm sure I wouldn't be sitting here today. I'm sure I'd be dead by now. And I for sure wouldn't have a marriage in the house and respect to my children and things like that I enjoy today. But none of those things were going to happen
Right.
if I hadn't have gotten sober. I mean, my daughter got married in November, and we were doing that daddy daughter dance that you do, and we were both crying, and everybody thought it was just because we were overwhelmed by the beauty of the marriage and all that, and we were both just saying, "This was not gonna happen 10 years ago," you know? And that was just a really amazing moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen so many families come back together once a person gets sober and they're
yeah,
on the path to recovery. It might not happen right away. For me, it didn't happen right
no,
away. For me, it took years.
yeah. Well, we wanna be measured by our intentions, you know?
Right.
I know I'm good. And you know what? They've seen that before and they've heard that line before and they've been burned by it. So they can only measure us by our actions, and that takes a lot longer. So expect whatever you think is the amount of time that they should, come around, 10x that, okay? Because it's going to take a lot longer than you want or you wish or you even think is reasonable. But the thing is that there is really just this almost infinite amount of grace out there with most people, and they're willing to give it to you if you just keep walking the walk and putting the next step forward and the next right thing and do the next right thing, and all of a sudden you look back and you go, "Wow, I've got several years
Mm,
put together,
yeah.
and look at me on vacation with my family," you know?
Yeah, I've heard so many people say, "Man, I'm sober." They're 30 days sober,
Yeah,
15 days sober. "Man, I'm sober, and I don't understand why my family is still has feelings against me, or I'm still not welcome, or whatever." It's like, to your point, it's the living amends. And what you said something. What's the line? I don't remember who this line came from. We judge ourselves by our intentions. We judge others by their
yeah.
actions. And that's the bottom line. You got to keep on showing up and doing the next right thing day after day after day. And it's one day at a time, as they say.
When I had 10 months sobriety, I was so proud because I hadn't been 10 months sober since I was, like, 13, okay?
Right.
And I was, like, 52. So it'd been decades, right? And I was like, said to my wife, "Hey, I got 10 months of sobriety." And she still went, "Yeah, well, your 13-year-old hasn't drank in 13 years. Let me know when you get there." I'm like, "Yes, that is a big bar to jump over."
Yeah, yeah,
That's really a tough standard. But, she was still angry that I had
yeah,
wasted so much time of our marriage.
yeah. You got to meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's an ongoing debate about medication assisted treatment. How do you approach that as both a physician and as a man of faith?
Well, personally, I don't have any problem with it at all. I know that I once again, like I said, I'm always dealing with these young people out at the Meadows, and so I'm always having to talk to parents about, buprenorphine and putting their kid on sub, and they're like, "Aren't you just trading one addiction for another?" And I'm like, "Okay, let's say that's true, okay? It's not really, but let's just say it's true. Would you want one addiction that the doctor prescribes and is legal and you know what's in it? Or do you want them to have to, like, rob houses and hold people up to get heroin that might not be heroin, and
Mm,
kill them? Let's at least start there.
right.
And we had these studies when Bupe first came out as a treatment for opioid addiction. They had this study in England where they had, like, a couple thousand young people on it and a couple thousand people on placebo. And they had to stop the study because so many of the placebo group kids were dying and relapse.
Mm,
They just said, "This is not ethical for us to keep doing this study. We have to stop this and give them all sub." And so it saves lives. And same thing with alcohol, drugs, a Campersade or naltrexone or whatever. They're not magic, but I kinda looked at him as kinda like a crutch, If I break my ankle, I want a crutch for a little while.
yeah,
I don't need a crutch for the rest of my life or something's really drastically wrong here, but get some physical therapy, get some exercise, get it strengthened up,
yeah,
and then you get ready a crutch after a while. But if it keeps people alive and lets them, build a sober community around them, and then you can wean down off of it, why not?
right,
If it helps people string together a few extra days before they might relapse, it's worth trying because the alternative can be, fatal.
right. 100%. How important is physical health, hormones, sleep, nutrition in long term recovery?
If you ignore your whole human self, you're going to have, at the very best, a lopsided abstinence. Okay. And not even sobriety.
Hmm.
Not drinking or not using isn't the point. Okay. Like I just said before, your drug of choice is not your problem. It's your misguided medicine. So, yay, take it away because it's good to not poison yourself and interact with maybe illegal activities and stuff. But the whole point is to be sober in mind and body and spirit, and have emotional and spiritual and physical health. The whole point isn't just to be abstinent; it's to enjoy life.
Hmm.
And so you can enjoy life if you're still, you know, not firing on all your cylinders physically, and if you, still think that you don't need a higher power and all you're going to do is white knuckle it and I'm just not going to drink, that's a horrible life.
Hmm.
But so taking care of yourself physically and going to see the doctor and it also makes you feel like, hey, you know what? I used to not do that stuff because I thought I was just, I just thought I was a piece of shit and I didn't deserve it. And when I got to rehab, I wouldn't ask for help. And what I would say out loud was, I don't want to bother anybody. But the honest truth right in here was I didn't feel worthy of asking for help. And finally, people just kept letting me know, you know what? You're worthy. You just don't agree with it yet. But we're telling you you are. And after a while, you start going, yeah, you know what? I am. I've been lying to myself and saying that somehow uniquely God made 8 billion people and he looked through the crowds and went, oh, something about that Don Middleton just pisses me off. I'm going to make him unworthy of respect and love. And, but that's just a stupid lie we love to tell ourselves that we're somehow uniquely unworthy of love and respect and especially from ourselves. So the world is more than willing to agree with you. And if you tell the world, I'm pretty much a piece of crap, they're going to go, yeah, yeah, you are. And if you tell the world I'm, a child of God, totally worthy of love and respect, they're going to go, yeah, you are.
Mm.
That's great. The world wants to agree with you. But if you don't believe it, they're not going to buy into it.
Well, and it's also what you tell your subconscious mind. It's like, what do we have? 50 to 60,000 thoughts every single day. 90% of them are subconscious. If you're saying that to yourself, then of course you're going to believe it. And the thoughts that are in your mind, what do we have? 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day. 90% of the thoughts I have today are the same thoughts I had yesterday. And if I'm continually telling myself that I'm not worthy and that I'm a piece of shit and that I don't deserve a better life, then of course I'm not going to get a better life.
It's all about we think two major things. We think about the past and either resentments or regrets of the past, or we think about trying to control the future and what bad thing is going to happen to me next and if she says this then I'll say this and then if she says that I'll say this other thing and we try to like have this crystal ball about what's going to happen and neither one of those are any good but what they do is they keep us from being present now and present here right this moment and that's why meditation is such a beautiful thing because it's like you take all that stuff and you take all this stuff and you just be here now in this little sliver of time now and I don't know. I even see that as biblical. I mean, Jesus said, "I'm the narrow gate," and there's no narrower sliver of time than now. And he said, "Your past is forgiven, and God's got your future. Be here now in the kingdom of heaven, right now. It's at hand, here now." And so I love that idea that I can at least even for just a few minutes in the morning
Hmm.
not be resentful over stuff that I think was an injustice to me or regretful over the things that I didn't do or things I did do that I wish I hadn't. And trying to control the future, that's a fool's game. You
Yeah.
can't control even barely even yourself, let alone other people. You can't control anybody.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. It took me a minute to realize that I wasn't in control. And so once I turned it over to a higher power, which I call God, call it the universe, call it whatever you want to call it, there's somebody else in control, then it's not me. and just turning it over and just realize I don't need to be in control. Everything has always worked out the way that it's supposed to. So let's just let things play out. And it just, when I'm trying to control the outcome, it's overwhelming, it's stressful, and things never work out the way that I wanted them to. So why not just turn it over and let things play out? It's more exciting, it's more fun, it's less stressful, it's much easier because I don't have to spend time up here thinking about what I want to have happen.
And you blow the opportunity to be present in the moment. That's
Mhm,
the thing is like right now is just a beautiful time. I know you guys are sitting here in like a recovery place, you know what? But this is, do you know how many people on this earth would trade their problems with yours right now?
mhm,
Like 99% of the people would. We're blessed to even be here and breathing and having clothes and food and shelter, you know? We need to be thankful for that and live in this moment and be thankful that we can learn to be a better person next moment, you know?
mhm, mhm. Many people here are early in recovery. What would you say to someone who feels spiritually disconnected?
It's rough to wonder if you're alone in the universe. I couldn't live that way. I tried to. I mean, when you're in science as a profession, you go. I went up to NAU to do a biology degree and chemistry, and they would that those departments were full of people who were at best agnostic, but mostly atheist, and they pounded that into you that there's no God, there's no God, there's no God, and so it took a long time for me to say, but I don't feel like that's true, you know? Like, I don't understand how all this stuff just randomly did it and how my life just keeps getting unexpected blessings when I just clearly don't deserve them, right? And that's just kind of seems to keep happening over and over again, not just a one and done, but over and over and over. If you really look through your life and all the things that you have to be grateful for. So for me, it started with just a gratitude list of when you first walk out of your bottle or your drug, you can't see anything to be grateful for.
Mhm,
It's like, well, how about the fact that you got four limbs that all work? Just how about say I'm grateful for that? How about I can see the sun's rise today? How about you got air in your lungs? How about just be grateful for those things today? And then tomorrow add something else to it, you know, like I'm grateful for the fact that I have senses that can taste delicious food or whatever.
mhm,
And then you just keep building on that and realizing there's a lot of things in my life that I'm grateful for. And then you say, well, who are you thanking?
mhm.
There's got to be something bigger than me, thankfully, because if I was in charge of the universe, it would be a total shit show. And I proved that to myself over and over and over and over and over again until I finally gave up and went, I surrender. And it is all about surrender.
Yeah.
If you can't surrender, like the thing that kept me relapsing over and over again was the difference between the word surrender and submission. And I know those two words sound a lot alike, but submission is more like compliance. It's about like going along to get along, you know, and it's about doing what they tell me to do so they'll stop yelling at me or so I can like get my bank account back or so I can like maybe get a little bit of health, you know. And submission says I'll put down my weapon and not fight, but I know it's right there and I'll pick it up anytime I damn well please and I'll fight. When surrender though says I am so tired of the pain, take my weapon, melt it down into a friggin' wind chime. I am done, 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 done. And that's when higher power steps in and goes, now that we can work with. Okay. Because that means you're done trying to control things and you have truly surrendered. It's not just a thing in addiction recovery, it's the thing. If you can get up every day and do the first half of the first step, I am powerless over this thing, you have a damn good shot at being sober that day. All the other rest of the steps, they'll fall into place if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. But you got to get up every day for the rest of your life and just go, yeah, I'm powerless over alcohol. And I'm okay with that because it's, you know, why was I fighting for that thing? Surrender seems like such a hard word though, because it sounds in our minds like failure. My oldest boy is he's in the United States Army and does special forces stuff, and he's kind of a badass. He does like jumps into countries we're not supposed to be in and stuff. But they war game on these iPads, and he goes, "Dad, I'll be dumping resources into this hill, and if I'm not careful, we get flanked and we die." He goes, "I always have to keep saying, now why do I want to fight for that hill? Is it because it's strategically important to me, or is this my ego doesn't want to give up a square inch of dirt?" He goes, "Sometimes the answer is throw the white flag on that hill, take a step back, and win the whole battle." And he says that's called a strategic surrender. And about 3 or 4 weeks later, I was in one of the AA rooms. I saw one of the little unicorn posters that said, when I drank, I gave up everything to get one thing. And when I got sober, I gave up one thing and gained everything. Mm. And I went, strategic surrender. That's a thing. And my son goes, "Yeah, Dad, it's not failure. It's wisdom. It's smart. You have to surrender this one thing, not everything, but it's this one thing." I mean, if every day you're going to school and some bully beats you up and takes away your lunch money, maybe you should go down a different street. That doesn't seem like failure. That seems smart. Quit the losing team and join a winning team, and so surrender's the thing, and it's not failure. It's wisdom. It's smart. Because it's you finally recognizing that what you were doing is just not going to work.
How does someone new to recovery rebuild their identity?
That's a really tough question because it seems to just happen regardless of your efforts. It seems to just like, oh, wow, I am a dad. Oh, yeah, I am a good husband. Oh, wow, I am a good friend. Oh, yeah, I do answer the phone when it rings, and people need help. And I do go help that guy, buy him a cup of coffee when he's struggling to stay sober. It seems to just morph out of living, but it demands that I stop being in control of the narrative. That I quit saying, "This is who I am. This is who I am. This is who I am," and just live life in the moment. Stop this stuff and stop that stuff, and just be here now. And it seems like all of a sudden you just realize, wow, this is who I am. Or people will tell you, and you'll go, wow, when did that happen? I used to like have people tell me I was an awful person. And now they don't say that anymore. So your identity kind of just morphs out of living life, I think.
Yeah. Doing the next right thing. I remember I used to be the guy that your mom, your girlfriend, your wife did not want you to hang out with.
Yeah.
And now I'm the guy that your mom, your girlfriend, your wife, your parents, they want you to hang out with. And it's like, how'd that happen?
Yeah.
And it's through recovery and doing the next right thing and continuing to work on myself.
It's the miracle of sobriety.
Yeah.
You get to live a new life. You get a second chance.
What do you say to someone who relapses and feels overwhelmed by shame?
Well, relapse is part of every disease. Okay? Relapse is part of every disease. People can go through cancer treatment and be 6 years without normal PET scans and all that kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden, year 7, it's positive again. Or you can have high blood pressure and be going along on it just fine, and then all of a sudden you go into the doctor's office and they go, your pressure's high again. Every disease has relapses. And addiction's no different than that. It doesn't have to be part of your permanent story, but it is a part of a lot of people's story. So you just say, okay, here I am again. Let's learn from that. We do what we call a relapse prevention program, and where we try to dissect the last relapse. What was I doing? Who was I hanging out with? What was I thinking? The behaviors and the thoughts and the actions and the emotions that kind of led you up to that. Because most people think of relapse as when I take that drink again. That's not relapse. That's the end of relapse. That's the beginning of active use. Okay? Relapse is all the thinking and the emotions and the behaviors that lead up to that first drink. That's relapse. And it can be months long as I'm slowly like, oh, I can hang out with the guys at the bar and just have a Diet Coke. Yeah. Talk about walking in slippery places and praying to not slip. You're stupid if you keep doing that. And sometimes it means you need, a different crowd to hang out with and different crew to support you as you're walking through life. But other time, most of my friends, they're like, I thought they drank more than they did, and it was just me. You know,
Yeah.
Most of them still will have a cocktail, but they can have a cocktail,
Right.
and
Right.
then they go to bed. And I didn't realize that I was the one that was, hanging out to force them to finish the 12 pack on.
Yeah, I realized when I started going to like football games and concerts and sober, I realized that I used to think that everybody was shit faced,
Yeah.
like I was. And then once I started going sober, I realized, to your point, it's like people are like not wasted.
Yeah.
People are having like one or two drinks.
Yeah.
And that's not me.
Almost 50% of the American adults right now don't drink any alcohol ever. We think everybody does all the time. But, whether it be like some religious thing or, like they got diabetes, they just don't drink, or they're in recovery, or for whatever reason, between 40 and 50% of the people will never have any. But we just assume when we're in the middle of our disease that everybody does it all the time to excess,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the people we hang out with, because we don't look so out of place. We hang out with people that don't draw attention to us. And, but relapse you can either look at it as, yes, I'm a failure, I'm a flawed human being. And once again, the shame the guilt and shame are different, right? Guilt says, I did something wrong, let's move forward. Do I need to apologize? Do I need to do a different path or whatever? And shame says, at my core, I'm made imperfectly and I'll never be better. And that's a lie. So you can learn from a relapse. You can say, okay, so there's another way that doesn't work for me. Okay. And I have to take a different path going forward. But when you ignore it and don't try to dissect what happened leading up to your new active use, you're likely to repeat it again. So you have to learn from your relapse and not just, kick yourself over and over again. Sometimes you need a few kicks, but mostly it's like try to learn from your relapses and dissect them and take it apart and then make a plan. So if this happens, what am I going to do next time that's different? Okay, I got this guy's phone number and I've told him I might call you in the middle of the night. Please answer,
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a plan, a relapse prevention plan, which I'm sure you guys probably work on here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I wanna open it up to questions. So questions.
Hello, I'm Luis. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So I grew up playing soccer at CCV my entire life, so I know how huge of an impact it has in the whole valley.
Yeah.
I heard you mention that you talked to them about creating something. Have they created something for recovery? Because so rarely I've ever heard them talk about us, our alcoholism,
Yeah.
and our recovery.
You know what? I thought having a recovery ministry was going to be the easiest sell on earth. Okay. Because every church in the valley has about 15 to 20% of the people sitting in their pews that need help. If you think 9% alcohol, another 4 or 5% drugs, at least 7 or 8% porn, we don't know how big that is. And then gambling. To say 20% of the people in your congregation could be diagnosed as addicted is probably conservative. And so I thought this was going to be easy, but there's so much shame on their part and so much resistance that it's been interesting. I think we're about to break open the dam at CCV, because the head pastor, Pastor Ashley, actually someone that's very, very important to him recently got a second DUI, and he said, "I want Dr. Middleton to sponsor you." And I went, "Aha! Of course I will sponsor your best friend." And it worked out really well too. The guy's just flourishing in sobriety. So I think that we're really maybe cracking the ice open. And once a big, big influential church like CCV agrees to it, then then hopefully it'll open it up to others. But I haven't got to pick the right person, because I am just terrible at taking no for an answer. So I haven't waited for CCV to come on board. We have about 7 or 8 other churches that have started it. I have, we're now in like 7 different states. I just got a call from a church in Virginia, like in a little dinky town in Virginia. The internet's an awesome place. I don't know how to, and we have like 5 meetings in Nairobi now. I'm like, how did that, what? It's just an interesting place to me, you know, it's like, but I think CCV is about, I think I figured out their secret sauce and we're about to crack the ice open and really, really, really explode it. Because I think once they do, boy, would I love to get into Ashley Woolrich's Rolodex, man. I bet his contact list is ginormous, you know. But yeah, that's a good thought.
Another quick
And if
question.
you go to church there, I'll never pass up a chance to ask one of the pastors, how come you guys don't have a recovery program? You know, always ask them that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
And then like at your highest peak of your like addiction, did you get away from God? Did you separate yourself? And if you did, how did you get back with him and right with him?
I tried so hard to do the God thing. I mean, we went to church. I'd go to church with booze on my breath, right? And I'd read the Bible and pray and pray. I mean, like serious people who say, "Give it to God, give it to God." And I was like, "What the hell's that mean?" You know? Because I would be like on my knees praying, crying, snot bubble coming out of my nose, prayers. You know, like God, take away this thirst. And to me, I realized, oh wait, there I go again, telling God my plan and asking him to just rubber stamp my plan. So when I finally said, I give up, help, that's when it happened for me, you know. But the whole time I was wanting to be, you know, that guy but I just had such a hard time surrendering instead of submitting, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question.
My name's John, and I don't really have any questions, but just want to thank you for sharing and for keeping it real. And I mean, what an amazing story and viewpoint. I just, what is your? I guess I do have a question. What is your material called?
It's called the Dunamis Effect.
The Dunamis
I should have
Effect.
brought books. I didn't realize sometimes if I come to a meeting and I only bring like 20 books, then there's like 50 people there and I feel like odd that I did that, you know. But it's called the Dunamis Effect. I have a website and, you know, a YouTube channel and all Facebook page, all that kind of garbage. But but if you look up Dunamis, it's actually become a thing. The other day one of these guys was starting a meeting and he said, well, I'm going to look up where is dunamis in the Bible, and it put all these different verses out. And then Google AI said, and as the reference, they went the Dunamis Effect. And I went, oh, I'm a reference now. Google knows me. You know? I'm a real boy, Pinocchio. Yeah, it was weird, but maybe they can help you if you forget the name. Write it down for you.
Oh, I'll remember it now.
Dunamis, and it means potential power.
Right
Like
on.
think about like when you pull back a bowstring, just before you let it go, it's full of potential power. It's about to shoot an arrow forward. And so dunamis is potential power.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate you, man.
No, thanks for saying that. I appreciate it.
If someone listening wants to get involved or go deeper, what should they do?
Well, we have the Dunamis Initiative, Dunamis Initiative, dunamisinitiative.com. Or if you just put donmiddleton.com, we went ahead and owned that one too, and it'll take you to the same website. But it's not really about me, you know. I have to be the face of it, but it's about God and it's about living your best life because you surrendered. I hate making it about me, but it's kind of the way things work nowadays. People don't care if you know stuff. If they don't care, you've been there and done that. So, yeah, totally open. Anybody.
Floor's open.
Doesn't have to be about Jesus or anything. I could be talk about anything addiction related. It's my whole life now.
Is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
I don't know. You got me on a few of them that I wasn't expecting to. So, no, you know what? It's our responsibility to surrender and to get sober because we're leaving this wake of pain in our past. But it's also our responsibility to like I said, to not hog all the blessings and reach back and grab someone out of the dumpster fire and help them. And if you are in a position to start a meeting and you're Christian or not Christian or whatever, start one, you know? Don't just piggyback off of the efforts of other people in the past. Start a meeting. Even if it's just 4 or 5 people for a while, you know, it's Field of Dreams. You build it and eventually they come. And it's amazing how God can work with you. I was whining that this wasn't working out the other day. And this other guy that has a bigger ministry called Parents of Addicted Loved Ones, PALS,
Mm.
he's like, Don, how many books have you gotten out there? And I was like, oh, about 3,500. And he goes, okay, so if 10% of those people it mattered to him, there's 350. How long would it take you to sponsor 350 people? It's like, well, I couldn't possibly do that in my life. And he goes, see? So God's used you to multiply your efforts. And it could do that to every one of you too, you know? You sponsor one person and they sponsor 2 people and then they sponsor 2 people. And all of a sudden there's this huge ripple behind you of effect that you didn't even realize you were able to do. And who knows? You help this guy and he helps someone else. And then that guy's not going home and beating his kid that night. And this kid won't grow up in trauma and become an addict himself. You just don't know how God can use you if you just stay loyal and open to the next right thing.
Nice. Where can people learn more about you? How can people connect with you? Anything else you want to promote?
No, just that website has contact us. I'm a ministry of one, so you contact that email address, you're gonna get me. And I'm an open book. If you guys know a place where I can be of effect, I'm open. If you have a pastor that you want to turn me on to, I'm there. I'll come. I'll be there. This is like the first time in my life when I've tried super hard not to control it.
Mm-hmm.
I just keep waking up every day and go, God, open doors for me. Because I know if I knock on the door, I'll probably pick one that serves me. So I swear if you open a door, I will walk through it. And then doors keep opening and I keep walking through them. And sometimes they're dead ends, but you know what? A lot of times I just meet new friends or come do this, you know, like I didn't even know this existed. So, you know, here I am and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So if you just go to the website and want to contact me or, you know, the books are on Amazon and stuff. We got like 4 or 5 books now. That happened. Got one called The Prayers and Promises of AA. It's like, you know, there's a lot of praying going on in AA. And, but the joke is it's like prayer at the beginning, prayer at the end, and 40 F-bombs in the middle, you know? But a lot of people just go through the prayers without thinking about them, like a little kid saying, God is great, God is good, so he can, you know, get to his peanut butter sandwich. And so I just like take the prayers apart line by line and go, this is what this means. This is where this might have come from the Bible, and this is what it means to your sobriety. So, you know, I did the Serenity Prayer and the Lord's Prayer and the 3rd and 7th step prayer and the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi and then the promises. And then I go through all the bumper stickers, you know, like one day at a time and easy does it. And just like, where's that come from? One day at a time. Well, you know what? When probably the best book for addiction recovery is Exodus in the Bible. It's about leaving slavery and the bondage of the Egyptian and moving into the unknown in the desert for years and years and then finally going to the promised land. But when they were going through that, God said, I'll give you manna one day at a time. I want you just to pick up just what you need that day and not more than that. And then later Jesus said, you know, give us this day our daily bread. We don't pray, give us all the bread I'll ever need, God, and then I won't bother you anymore. You know, it's learning to trust God every single day, one day at a time. And that's where they got that bumper sticker from there. Yeah.
So of your 5 books, what's the first book
The
that people
core
should...
is the Dunamis Effect.
Okay.
And that's the 12-step book that we use in all our meetings and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, Dr. Don, thank you for being here, and thank you for your decades of service in medicine, recovery, and faith leadership. If you'd like to learn more about his work, you can find the Dunamis Effect, When Your Higher Power is Jesus, on Amazon. And we're going to get a couple of those books here for the center as well. And you can also visit dunamisinitiative.com and follow the Dunamis Initiative on Facebook and YouTube. And to everyone here at Camelback Recovery, thanks for being part of this live conversation. Recovery is about more than just abstinence. It's about transformation. And today, that's exactly what we talked about.
Absolutely.
Dr. Don, thank you so much for being here.
That's
Give it
my
up.
pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thanks so much for listening to I Love Being Sober. I hope you got something valuable from today's episode. And if you're looking for more resources on recovery, mental health, or any of the therapies we talk about, head over to camelbackrecovery.com. You can find more episodes, blog posts, and ways to connect. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep growing, and keep living a kick-ass sober life.